Welcome to That's Camellia podcast. Hey, we're going to unpack some of those questions that you have. We're going to interview some guests and let's have a conversation. Come on, enjoy the show. Welcome back to That's Camellia podcast. June, Mental Health Awareness Month for our men. And let's talk about boundaries for our husbands, for our men. Why boundaries matter for our men? They reduce the stress and the overwhelmingness. They prevent resentment and frustration. They create a safe space for our men and they improve their mental health. Examples of boundaries: needing time alone or saying no to extra commitments, limiting your interactions with draining people or situations, limiting interactions with draining people or situations. Emotions, communicating when you need space or feeling overwhelmed. Have a dedicated workspace or your personal space that's free from clutter. So, setting boundaries is healthy, it's not selfish. It takes practice and communication, it's an ongoing process, and you can adjust your boundaries over time because they do change over time. Because you get older, you're going to change. What steps should we take, ladies? Respecting our husband's boundaries is crucial to a healthy and happy relationship, a happy life. They say happy wife, happy life, but I say happy husband, happy life. And here are some of the tips that, are things that we can do to honor our husband's boundaries. One, we have to understand our boundaries. Now, we have boundaries ourselves, women, but we also have to understand our husband's boundaries, our men's boundaries. Now, in order to do that, in order to understand their boundaries, there has to be open communication. You got to talk about it. You got to talk openly and honestly with your husband or your male partner about his boundaries. Now, this might take some time and it might take multiple conversations. This is not going to be a one sit down and that's it. No, you're going to have several conversations about boundaries. And you're going to have to pay attention. Notice the verbal and nonverbal cues. And I want to say the nonverbal cues are going to give you the most information. I mean, does he become, just standoffish, withdrawn on a certain topic? And when you bring up a certain situation or a certain person, does he seem tense, on about certain social situations? Does he seem tense when you start talking about money or about your friends or his friends? These can be some indicators of some boundaries, and we have to respect the privacy of our husbands and our men. Not everything needs to be shared. So we got to recognize that he has his personal space and privacy just like we do. Not everything has to be shared. And some stuff you don't want to know from your spouse, from your husband. Some stuff just keep it to yourself. Like when my husband wants to have his own time, before he would just sit down somewhere and just start doing his thing, and I would come over and I'm thinking, oh, it's be a nice little cozy time to talk. He would give me this look like, babe, hold on. Okay. I'm just detoxing right now. Oh, well, I didn't know that. You didn't have a sign that says I'm detoxing. So several conversations later, now I ask before I start approaching. Babe, is this your detox time? If it is, hey, I'm going to back away and give you your time because I want my space. Because when it's my time, when it's like the me time, the self care time for me, guess what? Everybody in the house knows that, okay, mom is over here doing her thing. Leave her alone for a minute. So, several conversations later, now I know to ask my husband before approaching him or intruding on his privacy, his boundaries, his space. We all need our space. When I talk about communication, we have to be respectful. Oh my goodness, this is a real big one, right? Because men and respect is huge. These I statements, when you're talking about the boundaries, using I to express your needs without being accusatory, for example. I mean, I feel worried when you work late without checking in. It's better than you saying, you never have time for me. You see the difference? Take the put the I in there. So when you're able to express and communicate. Now that sounds better than saying, you never have time for me. And it's not accusatory. And it's not invading their space. Another thing I think about is active listening. Truly listen to his perspective when you're communicating his boundaries. Try to understand his reasons and feelings. You might not understand them, and that's okay. Try to, but truly listen, actively listen. Don't be doing everything else, checking your phone or cooking. Stop and be present in that moment while he's trying to communicate his boundaries to you. And focus on some solutions. So instead of dwelling on the boundary itself where he says, I need at least 1 hour after I get off work to just do my own thing, instead of dwelling on that boundary that he's communicating and expressing to you, work together to find a solution that respects both of your needs. So if you said, okay, I need you at least that I can give you at least 30 minutes because I need that break in order to start preparing dinner. I mean, the solution is to still give him his space, his boundary, and still allow you that time where you're going to need to prep to cook dinner. Does that make sense? Kind of, communicate and work on the solution together. I would say healthy boundaries are include self-awareness. This whole month has been about mental health for our men. So you have to identify your boundaries and communicate them clearly. You have to communicate them. But before you communicate them, what you have to do, you have to be aware of them. What is your boundary? What boundaries do you need? And then you have to be consistent. Be consistent in respecting the boundaries that you've set for each other. Because let's be honest, actions speak louder than words. Respecting our man's time. If he needs time alone, respect his need for space and don't take it personally. Like the example I gave earlier, I didn't take it personally. At first I did. At first I did. At first I was like, you didn't have enough time to detox. Come on, let's I want to sit here with you. No, respect their space and don't take it personal and support their needs. If boundaries involve habits, activities, be supportive and encouraging. Let them do their thing and you go do your thing. I would say that. You go do your thing while he has his time. You go do your thing. So respecting boundaries is an ongoing process. There, I promise you, you will make plenty mistakes, and that's okay. Keep running this race and doing these life episodes and uncovering the boundaries, new boundaries, old boundaries, resetting boundaries. Continue to do them because it's an ongoing process. I would say the important thing is to apologize and learn from your mistakes. I had a podcast earlier that I spoke with Mama Vegas, and she said, "Don't be the student, be the teacher." So learn from your mistakes and keep working towards your relationship to build a mutual respect and understanding for each other's boundaries. Boundaries might be restrictive, right? And that actually they're essential for creating a sense of safety, respect, and understanding in our marriage, in our relationship. And guess what? It's just they're just boundaries and not just for the wife. They're important to men. So let's continue to dive a little deeper. And then I talked earlier about some steps and things that I was thinking about. But why boundaries matter? So, boundaries are an invisible wall that define your personal space. They can be about your time, your energy, and your emotional needs, and even your physical space. Got that? Boundaries are an invisible wall that define your personal space, your time, your energy, your emotional needs, and your physical space. Having clear boundaries helps our men to maintain a healthy balance between individual needs and the needs of a marriage and needs of a relationship. They also help us avoid resentment, frustration, and feelings of taken advantage of. So I mean, because really, let's be honest. Like I said earlier, you've heard the cliche, a happy wife makes a happy life, right? Well, I also want to say boundaries actually contribute to a happy spouse, a happy marriage overall, creating a more fulfilling and supportive marriage for both people, both partners, right? So, how do our men how do our men go about setting boundaries in their marriage, right? Self-awareness. I've said that so many times, right? This month. But first figure out what your boundaries are. What are your needs? What are your limits? Communicate them, talk openly, use the I statement that I talked about earlier. Be respectful. Listen to the boundaries. Find a way to compromise and come to a solution. But consistency is the key. That's the king of it all. When you set a boundary, stick to the boundary. It might be a little difficult. And like I said earlier, it's a journey, it's an ongoing process. Okay? Because where boundaries isn't about building walls, it's about creating a safe space where both people can thrive as individuals and even stronger as a couple. So, also within setting boundaries, that's like half the battle, right? That's the half part of it. The other half is respecting them. I mean, you set them and then you respect them. Really respect them, okay? So boundaries aren't the enemy of a happy marriage, I think. I think they're actually the foundation of a strong and healthy one. And when both the wife and the husband understand and respect each other's boundaries, you create a space where you can flourish individually and grow closer together. So remember, communication is the key to be open and honest and be willing to compromise about setting your boundaries and finding a solution. Let's support our men. Awareness is key, active listening, being flexible, communicating, and being resilient to stay in there to see this thing happen for your ideal happy marriage, happy relationships. Until next time. All right, that's all we have for today. Join me next time on That's Camellia podcast, where we're going to continue our conversations. Make it a great day.